What's up, interpreters? This is Ian Beard from the Historic Arkansas Museum in Little Rock, Arkansas.
What's up, interpreters? I am NAI Executive Director Paul Caputo. And with me, as always...
Hey, Paul. Hey, Ian. I'm Song. I'm the NAI Events and Engagement Manager, and this is, I don't even know what episode of What's Up, Interpreters, but we are excited to have Ian on with us today. Ian, we're coming to Arkansas. You're in Arkansas. What is up,
Coincidence?
So, Ian, you work at the the Historic Arkansas Museum.
Correct.
And what exactly do you do there?
I'm the education director here. So we have a department of 9 museum educators that we do school programming. Our bread and butter is living history programming, so costume interpretation, as well as a number of public programs and other things like that.
So we're coming to Little Rock, and we're looking forward to it. Song and I were there earlier this year as part of the site visit, and it's a beautiful, amazing place. The river is awesome, and these super cool bridges. What surprises people about Little Rock when they get there? If someone is new to the city and they are visiting your site, what are the preconceptions, and what are the things that catch people off guard about Little Rock?
It's a great question. Preconceptions, you can go all sorts of different directions with that. Some people know us for the 1957 Little Rock Central High desegregation crisis, one of the really a turning point in the civil rights movement. A lot of people know us as where Bill Clinton's from, and where they watched election results back in the 90s. We have people who know us, if they know about Little Rock or about Arkansas. They know about Dillard's and Walmart and Tyson and Stevens and JB Hunt and some of the big companies that are here. So I think it kind of depends on where you're coming from and what you've heard about what you've done. One thing I think universally surprises people about Little Rock and just Arkansas in general is just the natural setting and the beauty. Even as a small city, our metropolitan area is about 800,000 folks. There's just trees everywhere. And there's rolling hills, and there's lots of green. You've got the river in the middle of it all. There's great hiking and mountain biking and paddling, all real close to town. So I think a lot of people are really both impressed and surprised by just the outdoor recreation opportunities that come with a state capital, with like a city in the middle of everything.
Yeah. So, Paul, you mentioned that we were there earlier for a site visit for National Conference, which is coming up really soon. And we debated, the theme, building bridges, because also Arkansas is the natural state, and there's so many outdoor spaces and recreational spaces. And I'm excited to go on some of the off-site field trips to state parks, national parks. So yeah, there's a ton of greenery and rivers flowing through. But you work at the Historic Arkansas Museum, and you mentioned that you have living history reenactments. I know that one of your coworkers is presenting some blacksmithing, because you have like an 1850s farmstead kind of right there in the middle of the city. It's so cool. Yeah. So tell us about some of that the historical context.
Yeah, so the Historic Arkansas Museum is, as you said, right smack dab in the middle of the city, and folks that come to the conference are going to find a lot of that historic sites, cultural history that are very central to the core of downtown, which is great. And one of the places I work at, Historic Arkansas Museum, preserves an entire block from the antebellum period, so before the Civil War, of homes and businesses. And a lot of people are kind of surprised, because we are a historic site with like high-rise steel and glass buildings all around us. An interstate a few blocks away, all that sort of thing. And so it's really a different kind of historic experience. But we still do a lot of the things historic sites do. And one thing we've long been known for is our living history program. Doing things like Casey and the blacksmith shop. We have a number of trade shops. We also have a print shop. We're working on a textiles area. We do a lot of food waste programming. We have a lot of different trades and skills that we focus on, and most of that is done in period costume. It's kind of it's often a surprise to people walking down the street, and they'll see folks in frock coats and top hats and things like that that are just in the middle of Little Rock doing their job at the museum. So, and we have a lot of fun with that too, because sometimes we'll just go out into the entertainment districts or something like that, and then wave at people.
You're actually dovetailing with the question that I had here. The Historic Arkansas Museum takes up a full city block. Yeah. And it's not all indoors, as you mentioned. It's there's outdoor interpretation going on, and you are smack dab in the middle of the city, walking distance from the conference hotel, by the way, which is something we did when we were there in April. We walked there from the conference hotel, and you had historic buildings, you had people reenacting, doing living history interpretation there. What are the challenges of doing that kind of interpretation where you're trying to transport visitors to another time when you're surrounded by honking cars and tall buildings and all these great restaurants that they had there just nearby? Obviously there are challenges, I would think, of not being within a setting where you can really divorce yourself from your surroundings.
No, there definitely are challenges. It's hard to get that immersive sort of experience because of that, because there's utility poles and wires and traffic lights and all sorts of noise and things like that. People with their car radios too loud drive by in the middle of talking to a school group, and it's you do have that to contend with. So there are challenges, but I think that the opportunities that come with being downtown are really great as well. We get all sorts of visitors that are able, as you said, to walk in. So we have a lot of people, they're from out of town. They flew in, they took the airport shuttle, at the hotel. They don't get to go anywhere that's not within a few blocks of where they're staying. And we have so many of these people who just wander in. Because we do have that convenience. We are right there in the middle of everything. We're currently working on partnerships with a charter school that's located 2 blocks away, and is I think it's K through 8th for that campus, a set of school kids that could literally come any day of the week, anytime they wanted. To do programming with us. So there are a lot of challenges, but the opportunities that come with being in an urban core are really great as well.
Ian, so your living history program is a national award-winning living history program, cool. And that's what it says on the internet, Ian.
Yes. For my time, but yeah, I'll accept it anyway.
Ian ruined it. Okay, got it. No, award-winning program depicting original owners, workers, and slaves of the historic homes. So with that said, what are some of the challenges in interpreting accuracy and difficult history?
Yeah, so all of that is a huge challenge. There is so much of the history that has happened on our site is difficult. Arkansas was a slave state, so a state where not just slavery was legal, but really where it was the foundation of the economy up until the time of the Civil War. So everything we do here has that as a foundation, and we like many other historic sites spent the first few decades of our history just kind of not talking about that part. We talk about the important white people who have names on buildings and stuff like that that lived here. And to their credit, long before I was here, the Historic Arkansas Museum was really making an effort before a lot of other places were to reverse that and to really make the enslaved experience of so many people who were here a central part of the interpretation. If you do come to the Historic Arkansas Museum while you're here, we've got what we call Giving Voice Plaza, and there's a little plaque there which lists every enslaved person that our research has revealed that lived on the our museum actually spans 3 city blocks, but only adds up to about 2 total blocks. But every enslaved person that lived on those 3 blocks, well over 100, and when we can, we name them, we give familiar relationships. But one of the, I think the most striking things about that is so many of those names are just unknown. As these folks were maybe a hash mark on a census form, or even worse, a value on a tax form. But we've done that because we want to make sure that our visitors fully understand that there is this hidden history of literally hundreds of folks who didn't get to tell their own story for so long, and that we have made a real effort to be mindful of that and to work to include that into everything we do.
I think that that's such an important part of interpretation now is just knowing how to do that research, right? Like where, I mean, and like you say, sometimes these stories are not knowable, but interpretive sites that are doing everything they can to tell these stories, such a valuable work that you're doing. So kudos to you and the museum. What are, for folks who are there visiting for the conference, or for otherwise, if they just happen to be in Little Rock, what are the exhibits where in the museum itself, what are the exhibits that you would suggest folks start with to get a real sense of? And this is like I don't mean to be the like the visitor who shows up and they're like, I have 30 minutes to see the Grand Canyon. What should I see? Right. But
right.
Are there exhibits that you're particularly proud of, or that you think folks should start with to understand Little Rock and Arkansas as a place?
Yeah. So along with being a historic site, our museum, we're actually a museum of both Arkansas history, material culture, and contemporary art. So if you come to our museum galleries, we're going to have one gallery that rotates, that's just dedicated to Arkansas artists, contemporary artists, living artists, which I think is really cool. We've got for mature culture right now, we have a temporary exhibit in partnership with the American Folk Art Museum on Masonic and Oddfellow folk art in pieces. We have another exhibit called Conspicuous Consumption, essentially how you show off as a Victorian Arkansan by the things you buy and the face you put out there. And then our 2 permanent exhibits are also bringing a lot of people. One is We Walk in Two Worlds, which is, at least in Arkansas, the most extensive sort of exhibit looking at the native peoples of Arkansas, the Quapaw, the Caddo, and the Osage, and really work with them for them to tell much of their story in that exhibit space. Probably, though, the one we're most famous for, and most people come off the street, is like, all right, 30 minutes to see the Grand Canyon. We're gonna point them to our knife gallery. The Historic Arkansas Museum is internationally famous. I don't think there's too much hyperbole with that, as a depository of Bowie knives. Bowie knives. Halloween, seen a lot of makeup today. I got Bowie on the mind, but they're Bowie knives, but really big knives. And actually, the other contemporary name back in the 19th century for a Bowie knife is an Arkansas toothpick, and so we've kind of leaned into that, and we've got really a great collection of historic pieces as well as contemporary pieces done by modern bladesmiths, and so the galleries offer a lot of really interesting interpretation that honestly is very different than what's on the historic grounds. So we kind of have that Jekyll and Hyde thing. We're both a historic site, but we're also a museum with exhibits about all sorts of things, and so you can get a lot of variety while you're here.
Ian, how would you say that the interpretation has changed over the years in your time at Historic Arkansas Museum? As society changes, I'm sure interpretation changes. What do you see as the major changes in interpretation at the museum?
Kind of dovetailing into that difficult history and dealing with difficult issues is that we no longer do first person interpretation. And this kind of ties in with a number of things. Both the setting, as we talked about, it is a historic site, but not in a historic setting. But also just because it became really hard to do some of these difficult subjects justice, trying to put the blinders on of just what a first-person interpretive style would allow. I think first-person interpretation is great. I think there's a lot of really, really great examples of it, but I will say almost all of that is at much larger sites with enough staff to cover a much broader spectrum of viewpoints. And that is something that we don't have. So we have 9 people. It's rare that all 9 of them are in costume and doing interpretation at the same time. And so we pivoted to third person, where we can talk about things in context. And I think that was especially important for talking about things like enslavement, but also talking about things like the rights of women during our time period, the rights of children. We talk about apprenticeships and indentured servitude and things like that. There's a lot of different things. At the time, they would not acknowledge the Quapaw as the original owners of this land, inhabitants of that. That's something we could talk about as well. And so I think that I really love living history. I really love costume interpretation. But a decision we made is that we needed to, even though we were in the costume, we still needed to be ourselves and have the knowledge and really the hindsight of a modern person to give these subjects full justice and to be considerate of our visitors and their experiences.
Well, Ian, how did you get into the field of interpretation? And have you always been in living history, or how did you originally get into this profession?
Great. That's a question that I'm going to answer honestly for you, even though it's probably not the best decision. When my junior year in college, there was a really cute redhead in state park uniform recruiting for seasonal positions at my cafeteria. And so I went up and talked to her and chatted for a little bit. I mean, I knew that it existed as a field, but it wasn't something I'd ever really thought about or considered. And it sounded fun. Growing up, we were a family that went camping a lot, went to state parks, went to national parks, did all that sort of thing. I remember a few, at the time, what I would have called like a ranger talk or whatever, but now I understand the interpret program. But some of those had been very memorable. But it had just never occurred to me that was something that people did for a living. Now, to be fair, my junior year in college, nothing else had yet occurred to me on what to do for a living either. And so it was pretty, it's a pretty good timing. And so I applied. I got a seasonal position from Memorial Day to Labor Day at Withrow Springs State Park up in Northwest Arkansas, a really little one. And it was a great experience. And I left. I was like, oh, that'd be something fun to do, like maybe when I retire. I don't know. I still had to come up with what I was going to do for the rest of the time, but it just hadn't clicked that could be a career. Bopped around, not really coming up with a career. Delivered a lot of pizzas, waited a lot of tables, did a lot of that stuff. And I got a temporary job being a tour guide at our state capitol. Different than the state park, but a lot of similarities. And there's starting to be a trend. Apply for seasonal work again, get a 9-month position at Petit Jean State Park, which is sort of the crown jewel of the Arkansas State Park system. Go up there. Finally started to click. It was like, oh, people do this for a living. And honestly, one of the big things was Withrow Springs, they had my position, the 3-month seasonal interpreter, was the only interpretive position they had up there. Everybody else was administrative, law enforcement, blah, blah, blah. But there wasn't anybody else doing interpretation. Petit Jean, there's 2 full-time interpreters and then multiple seasonal interpreters. And so I'm actually working with people who do this for a living. And I was like, this is actually something you do with your life. And from there, about the end of my 9 months, I got a job at the Old State House Museum. I believe we're having a dinner there at the conference, and that was kind of where it finally all kind of came together. And honestly, I'd always been a history buff, but I had never done anything with living history until I got a position coordinating living history at the Old State House. To my credit, I guess not a lot of other people had ever done that either. That's why there wasn't more competition for that job. I didn't hire somebody who'd been doing, 20 years of living history. It's like, it's something that is a little rare. And then I kind of consumed from there. Just learned everything I could. Got involved in a lot of professional groups, NAI, Association of Living History, Farm and Agriculture Museums, AAM, different groups like that, and really tried to develop professionally from really nothing. And honestly, it was kind of helpful not having any preconceived notions of what it was supposed to be or how I was supposed to do it. And so I was really able to kind of be a sponge and then decide what to turn this all into. And so I did that for 11 years. But this will probably be another part of the story, and you might come across as we come to the conference. I took a break from interpretation to open up a brewery. And so I believe some of that beer is going to be served at the conference. But even when I was doing that, I was having the brewery make like weird historic defunct styles of beer and working interpretation into that as well. I think a beer we're actually serving for the reception that we're helping with is a project I did when I was with the brewery, with the Historic Arkansas Museum where I work now, but I wasn't working there yet, to recreate a historic Arkansas beer. And so take the research of the foodways research and historic techniques and all that sort of thing, put that all together, brew a beer that people would actually drink, because that's the thing about actually replicating a lot of history is that you don't really want the result. Our modern palates have done it. So this is a beer that actually tastes good. And it was a hit. And so we've been making it for years now. And I know Theron, who's been working with, who's the brewer, made a special batch just so we could have it for the conference, because it is a beer with a story, specifically an interpretive story. And you'll have to come talk to me at the reception to find that one out.
Well, Ian, we are so looking forward to seeing you in person next week. So excited to head to Little Rock, Arkansas for NAI 2023. Thank you so much for coming on and chatting about the work that you do and the place that is going to host our conference next week. So, Ian, thanks very much. And
interpreters,
that's what's up. Super good. We're getting better and better.
So good.
So good. Thanks for doing this on short notice. And we'll see you a week from today.
Yep. Safe travels.